So in this video, we're going to look at the Blob Brush and really what it can do. So I'm actually going to change my color here. Let's change it to black. Black. There we go. Okay, so a couple things about the Blob Brush. The Blob Brush is here under the paintbrush. Shift B to get to it. I'm going to double click on it first and just show you kind of some interesting things that are inside of here. Now, I do recommend, this is the point, if you haven't been drawing with a tablet, this is really where the tablet comes into play. So you have the fidelity. So that really means, based upon what I draw, how much do you want Illustrator to smooth it, or how accurate that you want to be. And I'll draw a couple shapes using both of those. The second thing is, where's my starting size, right? I could start at a really big brush, or I could start with a really skinny brush. How you deal with variation, I suggest you putting that to pressure. So the less pressure you do, the less line it is, the more pressure, the bigger it is. I'm going to keep angle and pressure kind of fixed. You could also squish this if you wanted something that was a little bit more or less round. You could do that too. I'm going to stick to the round brush here. And I'm just going to show you kind of what the Blob Brush does. Now I have it at 15, just so it's kind of big for what we're kind of doing here. So I'm just going to draw some shapes here. Right? So this is little pressure, little, big, little, big. All right, so we're just going to continue with this shape here. Okay, so let's just kind of turn that off for a second. I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to go back into those Blob Brush settings, and you can see it was accurate. Let's turn it all the way up to smooth. Right, you see how it smooths my line. Right, so that has a nice quality to it. This is somewhat shaky in there because the fidelity was a little bit more accurate, and you can see this is a lot more smooth. Now let's go back into this, and we're going to we're just going to bring it down a little bit. And I'm just going to bring the size down just to show you. Right, so you can draw smaller items kind of too, right? So you can kind of just do that with whatever you want to do. Right, let's just, there it is. You can see it kind of smooths out what I have. Now, something to look at in here is that you can see that they're not lines. In here, what I've drawn is basically shapes. So if I wanted to, not that I would recommend it, but you could see I could outline those shapes, and I could change the fill, right, to anything that I want. And there, it's not that I don't recommend it, I misspoke. You can kind of do this for this effect if you wanted to, this kind of tone on tone, or whatever you wanted to do with it. You can see now that I've kind of stroked that with that. Now what also is, you can see where I went over top, you can see that this is going over, so just be careful where you draw it. You could also try to cut that, but it gets a little messy. Right, so I could try to just take away those, but again, it's not as smooth. All right, so I just minus those out. So that's kind of drawing with the Blob Brush as far as really how to work with it, and you can kind of change those settings based upon kind of whatever you want. But what's really nice about this, just go one last thing here. We're going to take this nice shape that I made, and let's say I want to color that. Well, I drew it with the Blob Brush, so it's actually not fillable. So what we're going to do, and this is what a lot of people do, is we're going to have this, and we're going to keep that locked, and we're going to change this color. Let's just find purple's fine, and we're going to grab the Blob Brush, and I'm going to make a really big brush here. But you can see I'm underneath my black stroke. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in and color. And we can kind of do this really loosely. You can see I'm not paying attention too much to the lines, because I'll show you in a second why. And now flip your pen over, and I can just erase. Right, which is super cool, which I'm actually going to make my paintbrush bigger here. There we go. Now what it looks like is, it looks like I'm taking away the black line, but I'm not, because I have that black line locked, so it won't kind of do anything. So this is just a kind of a really nice organic way to kind of color. Now it looks like I missed a little bit here, so we're just going to go back. There we go. And there's your kind of simple coloring inside of Illustrator. Now I could take this if I wanted to add maybe some simple shading. Make sure I'm on my Blob Brush. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And then I could kind of go in and boom. There we go. And so now I can do really simple shading, and we'll get into shading a little bit further, but that's generally how you use the Blob Brush.